Hi, my name is Brooke Parker, and I will be talking about my personal development over time. A little bit of info about me is that I am an accounting major and I'm a senior, so I'll be graduating in May. I After graduation, I will join grad school here at USM and join the MPA program, which is the Master of Professional Accountancy, so that I will have enough hours to sit for the CPA exam and become an official CPA. And then that's all that I'm going to do for school. Next is that I was color guard captain for the marching band in high school as well as here at USM in the Pride of Mississippi marching band. I was color guard captain for 2 out of the 4 years that I was here. And also, by the way, color guard is the girls on the field with the flags. So wasn't cool enough to play an instrument, but I did spin on the field, and that was so much fun. And then last thing is that I do have a part-time accounting job at Pat Harrison Waterway District in Hattiesburg, and it is so much fun, and I love it so much. I love accounting. It's awesome. Some fun facts about me is that my favorite movie is Shrek 2. Shrek is so awesome and amazing. The second thing is that I have been dyeing my hair red since high school. A lot of people think that I'm a natural redhead, but I'm not. And then last but not least is that Cece's Pizza is my favorite restaurant, and they closed down as soon as I started coming to USM, it was 5 minutes from the campus, which was so devastating to me. So that's a little bit about me before I get into my personal development. Okay, so starting with chapter 9, it was dealing with conflict. So the main thing that I got from chapter 9 was the 4 response types to conflict. So the first one was the negative. I'm sorry. The first one was exit, which is when you leave conflict and you're active and destructive. So exit response would be quitting a job without talking to anybody or trying to resolve the problem. Next is neglect, which is denying or trying to minimize problems. Like you're denying the minimization of problems. Like it's not as bad as exit, but it is passive and destructive. So it's not quite quitting, like exit would be, but it still is destructive and is not good. Next is loyalty, which is a good one. It is silent allegiance, whenever dealing with conflict, with whether it's with a person or with just a situation in general. It is passive and constructive, so it's more like neglect than it is exit. And then the last one is voice, which is you're actually communicating about conflicts, which is both active and constructive. So this one's the best one to have out of all of these 4 responses. So, my personal example with this is that actually, like 2 weeks ago, I went through the exit response. Not me personally, but someone else exited, and I was kind of left with the situation. I was having to deal with her problem. So, at work, this girl who was my age, she did the payroll. And payroll is whenever people get paid. So like every single person turns in their timesheets. Normally they just write it down. We don't have a system yet to where we can like just automate it like how teachers do it at some schools. Like they can just like clock in when they get there, like onto a computer. But this one, like we just kind of trust that people write in the right timesheets. And that was something that that girl had a problem with. She thought that people were lying about the times that they were putting on their timesheet. And whenever she brought that up to her manager, the manager told her that, I mean, honestly, just keep doing it. You don't really have to double check because it's going to take up too much time. You have to do this every 2 weeks. There's no point in making people have to think about this more. Just let them write down whatever times they think and then just turn it in and then just do it. So, which is problematic. I definitely agree with the girl who quit. However, she did quit because she obviously did not feel that that was right about paying people for the hours that they might have or might not have worked, because they could have been lying. You know, people are dishonest all the time. And because she quit, it affected me and all of the other people in the office, because then I was asked to do the payroll, because I'm an accounting major and people think that payroll, I guess, deals with accounting. And so they asked me to do the same thing and asked me to do her job, which in turn would make me have to deal with the same exact situation that she went through. And because of that, the problem didn't change. And it's because of this exit response that she had. It left the burden on me, or if it had not been me, it would have been on someone else to fix because she neglected it. So, the main lesson that I learned from this situation is that it could have been solved if she had told someone about what the manager was asking her to do, whether it be a colleague that's like on the same level as her, just to get their opinions to see, like, am I kind of overreacting? Which she wasn't. In some ways, she was, in my opinion. And then she also could have gone to a higher up than the manager, and it, just something could have been done instead of exiting and quitting the job. They could have maybe even gone to the manager and said, "Hey, I really don't feel comfortable doing that. Can you please give me something else for me to do? Is either her not do payroll anymore, or can you help? What is a control that we can put in place, like, to make sure that people don't lie?" Some kind of compromise could have been made if she had talked to somebody. But obviously that didn't happen. So now it's my responsibility to tell someone what's going on and ask what can be done, since it's now my responsibility and I'm not going to have the exit response that she had. And another thing that she could have done is that she could have just not done what the manager asked, because what the manager asked her to do was not, like, unethical. And so she could have just double checked the hours. All that would have done is just kind of make her workload a little bit more. And then, I mean, she maybe would have, like, aggravated a few people for having to deal with, like, looking at, like, their timesheets a few more. But I mean, I just think a few more things could have been done rather than her just quitting this job, all because of payroll and because a manager told her to do something that she didn't want to do. Okay, next is chapter 10, and this was about friendships. And so the main thing that I got from this chapter was the 5 friendship nature types, which is investment, closeness, acceptance, trust, and support. So investment is time, effort, thoughts, feelings, money, and gifts into a person. So either physical investments or, mental investments. Next is closeness, which is like expressing intimacy to friends platonically. Next is acceptance. Just accepting us and who we are, even though we are flawed people, which is always good in a friendship. Next is trust, which is we're confident that our friends are dependable and that they care about us. And then lastly is support. So we want people who are going to listen to us and who are available to talk to us and need encouragement. So my personal example of this is my friend that I've had from high school that meets all of these friendship nature types. We invest time together by having sleepovers and getting each other gifts. We have closeness because we hug every single time we greet and leave each other, and, like, give each other high fives and all that stuff. I mean, I guess that kind of correlates with closeness. We're able to kind of, like, physically, like, be close to each other. Next, we are accepting of each other's flaws because we are all flawed people. The main example that I could think of was that whenever she drives kind of bad, I tend to take up backseat driver role, which is not a good, I mean, both of those are flaws of both of us, but we both, understand and accept and deal with that. Next is we trust each other with secrets and gossip and drama about people that we know. And then last is we support each other whenever someone's feeling bad or they're in a hard place or there's a situation going on that they don't understand what they should do and they just need some support and encouragement. So the main lesson that I learned from reading this chapter and kind of looking at like all of the friendships that I have with this friend, I'm able to confide in her because I have each and every one of these five friendship nature types. Without one of them, I'm sure that we would still be close and we would still be great friends. But because we have all five, we're able to, you know, be so much closer than of a relationship than I have with my other friends. And I also realize that those friendships where I only have like one or two of these nature types, we are still friends, but it's definitely not as strong without all five of them all together. Then chapter 11 was about romantic relationships. And the main thing that I thought was so interesting about this chapter, I honestly think this was the most interesting chapter of like this whole class. I really, really loved it. And the main one that I really liked in this chapter specifically was the deterioration of relationships in these five stages. So intrapsychic processes is whenever people feel dissatisfied and then they kind of start snapping at each other because they see the problems of the other person more clearly. The next is didactic processes where you break down patterns of your relationship that has, kind of been like the root of what the relationship was kind of based on. Next is social support. So just looking to family and friends for support in what to do and how to continue, if you should continue the relationship or not. Next is grave dressing, where you bury the relationship, let it die, and then kind of accept that it's ending. And then last is resurrection, where you move on with your lives without the other person. So my personal example was watching my brother go through a divorce. He's about 30 years old and I'm like 22. So we have like a pretty big age gap. And so I was able to watch him get married at a young age. And then now, a few years later, kind of watch this relationship deteriorate in real time. And so this chapter really helped me like see what steps were at what point in his, marriage and all that stuff. So the intrapsychic process was whenever he was working all the time, they started arguing. So every time he was home, they would argue instead of just being happy that they were together over the weekend. I probably said it wrong in the last slide. Sorry. The dyadic, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that. That process is whenever they started sleeping in different rooms and just weren't spending as much time together. That kind of broke like that, that relationship, like culture that like is just normalized, like sleeping in the same bed and sleeping in the same room and all that stuff. Then next is the social support. He would come to me or my parents or, his friends, just to kind of get support and encouragement and advice about what he should do with his marriage. The next is grave dressing, which was whenever they had officially divorced and separated and moved out, didn't live together anymore. And then last was resurrection. And now they're both remarried, living independently, not together. So, yeah. So the lesson that I learned from that experience was that, unfortunately, my brother did have to go through that. But fortunately for me, I learned from his lesson. I saw how it affected him and his wife, but also me and my family and the people that loved him. And the on the other side, his wife, her family, and the people that loved her. We all were kind of affected by it because we wanted the best for them at the end of the day. So going back to how impactful this chapter was, I'm so glad that I know these five, stages so that I know what deteriorating in a relationship looks like. And so how I can kind of mend certain things that I notice going on, and hopefully be able to fix it before it breaks completely. And then lastly, chapter 12 was about family. And so the main thing that I learned from this was going through the family life cycle. These 7 stages were, they weren't shocking to me, but it was just like, it was very interesting to read through and see the family life cycle from beginning to end. So the first one is establishing a family, where a couple gets together and starts dating and starts a relationship. Next is enlarging a family, which is, having children. Next is developing like a relationship with the kids. So having that parent and child relationship that's trying to maybe just get like a healthy, like, mother daughter or father son, type of relationship with your kid. Next is teaching kids independence. So kind of letting children gain more autonomy, as they get older, specifically like when they're teenagers, but try not to give them too much independence. Next is launching. So whenever the children are like 18 or 20 or 22 or, going off to college or just moving out, starting jobs and when they leave home. Next is post-launching, which is whenever the couple has to redefine how their marriage works, because it's obviously different after those like 18 or 20 years of having children in the house. It changes how a relationship is. And then next is retirement, which is where the parents get to do what they want. And they don't have to worry about, earning a living. And yeah. So my personal example for this was just thinking about my parents, how they started their family cycle and how it's kind of going now. So, I mean, obviously they first, got together, started a relationship. Then next they, after a few years, they decided to have children to enlarge in the family. Then they obviously had these kids and they had to have a relationship with them. So, me and my parents have a great relationship. Me and my mom have a very different relationship from me and my dad. And so, and I'm sure that my brothers have a different relationship between our parents as well. Then after that, whenever we became teenagers, they were kind of letting us, have more freedom and autonomy by removing our tracking apps. And our curfews, kind of pushing them back a little bit later because they trusted us and they wanted us to, be able to trust them without us knowing that they were, watching our every moves. Then next was launching, whenever we moved out, whenever I went to college, and then whenever my brothers got married. Next is post-launching. So whenever they had to work on their marriage, they had kids in the house for over 20 years. And so they were kind of trying to focus on that, which was a really good thing to watch. Because I knew that my parents loved each other, but, getting to see them kind of focus on each other and themselves really was awesome to see, after living with them for 18 years. And then the last one was, they're not there yet, but, eventually they're going to retire. My parents are about in their late 50s. And so soon, and hopefully I think they're planning on retiring together so that, they can spend time on each other and on themselves without having to worry about, earning an income. So the main lesson that I learned from this was that my parents have gone through almost all of these stages of the life cycle in their family life cycle. I didn't realize how many parts were in it. I had honestly only thought maybe there would be like 3 or 4 parts. I didn't really realize there were 7 of them, but all of them are very important and they're all very different. So they're all very necessary things. And then lastly was, even though my parents are almost done with this, family life cycle, they do still have so much life left to live. And just because, growing the family is kind of over, I guess, being able to be in that post-launch and retirement kind of era allows them to relax with their family and the children and the family that they have created together. Okay, thank you so much for listening to my PowerPoint. Have an awesome day.